If you've been involved in an anxious avoidant relationship and you walked away or they walked away and you're thinking the avoidant was the problem, you're about to repeat the same relationship pattern again. I'm Garrett, and we're going to talk man to man about how most people are looking at the avoidant in the wrong way and how the way they're looking at the avoidant post relationship is going to get them into another anxious avoidant relationship. So I'm going to say something that most people won't say. Your avoidant, your avoidant is not the problem in your story. Your avoidant is not the villain in your story. Pretty bold statement. Now, before you react to that, because I know some will, I'm not saying their behavior is okay, that ghosting and blame shifting, the dismissals, the not answering texts, getting angry when you're trying to talk about something. What I'm saying is if all you see is them as the problem and not you, you're missing the only part of the whole relationship that actually gives you the power and it allows you to go into the next relationship with the right kind of mindset and the right kind of power. So this is a different conversation. This is not about defending the avoidant or their action. It's not about excusing the ghosting and blame shifting and the emotional shutdowns. None of that's acceptable. But if you walk away from that relationship and all you carry forward is they were the problem, you didn't learn the lesson. And if you didn't learn the lesson, you will live it again, my friend, and that is a bona fide promise. It's just going to be a different face. So let's start here. First, I don't like the word avoidant. It's a negative label for someone who truly, on the inside, doesn't want to be like they are. And it gives us the power and the authority to say, oh, the anxious avoidant. Well, the avoidant definitely sounds much more negative, but they're both interlocking dynamics. So I don't like the word avoidant. It just sounds like a fixed identity, like they're broken or defective or something's wrong with them. Yes, they got wires that are screwed up, but my brother, so do you. If you hung out in that relationship knowing that you were having problems, seeing all the red flags. We'll get to that in a bit. A better way to look at this is they are an avoider of emotional exposure and vulnerability and accountability. But it's not calculated evil. They don't sit there and think, I am going to go and hurt this person. It's switches that turn on underneath their radar or in their subconscious. They're not consciously aware, just something that happens. We do the same thing in different ways, believe it or not. What's going on is simply protection. It's condition that's inside of them. It's someone who at some point early in their life learned that going into a point of exposure leads to something that feels unsafe to them. It doesn't make sense to us because we're on the other side of the spectrum, but that's what's going on inside of them. So when you're sitting there thinking, how can they not see this? Or how can they not understand what they're doing? They don't get it because they're not operating from the same internal wiring as you. You have empathetic wiring. They have protective wiring. And the sooner we can start to wrap our heads around this, we can start to see that we are part of a dynamic that is making that work in them. And we are part of a dynamic that they are doing something to make it work for us. Right? It's kind of a sick and twisted relationship. Here's where this goes sideways for most people. In the relationship, the avoidant was making you the problem. But after the relationship ends, what do? We replay everything that they did wrong. And we start blaming them. They pulled away. They shut down. They blame me. They ghosted. Yes, they did all that. It might be true. But here's the part nobody looks at. What you're doing now, post-relationship, saying all this stuff, being angry, outsourcing that energy is the exact same thing they did in the relationship. They blamed you in it. They avoided accountability in it. They made you the problem in it. And now after the relationship, you're doing it back to them. It's kind of twisted. But if you really start to dig in, you're pointing fingers at something that here's the reality. If they came back to you, you'd take them back. Even though you're all pissed off at them. Most people will do that. The whole thing is, it's the same pattern. It's just a different point in the relationship. And as long as your focus, my brother, is on them and all their shit that they pulled, and you're not looking at you, then nothing inside of you changes and you're going to relive the same fucking dynamic in the next relationship and the next one and the next one. And you're going to wonder, why the hell does this keep happening? You're the common denominator. I've been through all this. This is why I can talk to this, because I had to stop and say, what the hell's going on here? This is where it gets uncomfortable, because now we're bringing up you into the equation. My brother, there are two people in a relationship. It takes two, not one. And you saw the signs early on. You felt the signs. That moment where something didn't sit right. You started to see the inconsistency, and it was turning into a pattern. The emotional distancing, that turned into a pattern. The lack of clarity that you could never get, you saw it, and you didn't act on it. In fact, you were getting pissed off behind the scenes, but to her, you were sitting there being Mr. Nice Guy. Sure, you tried to talk about things, but she pushed back, right? I'm not saying this stuff to beat up on you. I'm saying this because this is where your power lies. And if you outsource your power to them, if you don't see that you're doing this, you stayed in this. Why did you stay in it? This is where you can reverse the power. When you stop focusing on them and start asking yourself, why did I stay in such an unhealthy dynamic? I did another video on this, but a little different. It's about having your core values in place before you enter a relationship. And this is exactly where this shows up, the lack of values. Because what actually happened? Your values got overridden, or you didn't have solid values. You got overridden by attraction, attention, affection, sex, intensity, all of a sudden what you said you needed in a relationship after a while was no longer what you were requiring in a relationship. You just wanted the good feeling stuff, and you adopted instead of leading as the man that you are. And when you do that, the relationship built itself around dysfunction because you didn't have core values. And this is your time to learn about core values, and you use the way they treated you as the foundation for they exposed where you are weak at, and use that as a gift to learn what you need to work on yourself. The real source of your anger is not what you think. All right, let's talk about this, because I know a lot of you are carrying a lot of anger, and I get it. You got to get the anger out. But you think you're angry at them. And part of you is, because they violated trusts, right? But the deeper part of that anger is really directed at yourself, and you're not letting yourself look at it. This is why we outsource our anger. We outsource frustration. We literally, when we're mad at somebody else, at that avoidant, we are outsourcing stuff inside of us about ourselves. Some of that anger would be, why didn't I say something? How many times I've replayed conversations and replayed how I would have said it? How often do you do that? Why didn't I draw the line, you might say? Why did I keep going back? Why did I tolerate that? That's frustration. That's internal conflict. And that, in order to make you feel better, gets projected outward on them, so you don't have to carry the responsibility of what you need to do for yourself to ensure that the next relationship, you chop this stuff off. Why don't we do this? Because we don't want to push away the next person that gets close, because we, in some ways, feel like we don't have enough self-respect, right? So when we finally grab the next person, we don't want to lose it, no matter how sick they are. At the end of the day, it's just easier to blame them than to sit with what you allowed and start to dig into you and figure out why you allowed it. Now let's get clear about something. The avoider is not sitting there trying to destroy your life. That's not what they're doing. They want connection as much as anybody else. They want love, just like you do. But they don't know how to navigate it. They weren't trained for it. And this is why I'm saying they're not the villain. Deep inside, they feel like shit. They don't know how to process emotions properly, express empathy consistently, take ownership of when they messed up. Here's the part that's hard to understand. A lot of the times, they know that they goofed up. They feel it, but there's a block. They don't know how to deal with it. My ex, she ghosted me at a really bad time. And I had already talked to her about ghosting and how it made me feel. But she did this. And then once they do it, it's like something inside just makes them do it. They don't get it, and they can't elaborate on it. Later, when I asked her, what happened to you? And she said, well, I thought you were sleeping. She made a plan with me and set the time and never showed up 4 hours later. I'm asking her where she's at, and she's going, I thought you were sleeping, which is bullshit. And she knew it was bullshit. She didn't have an answer. She couldn't express why she did it because she truly didn't know. I went and broke up with her. Got back with her a few days later, which I was pissed at myself for doing. But the point is, they know they goofed up and they don't understand why. And that's why they sweep it under the rug. It's like the wiring between feeling what they did and being able to express what they did. It just doesn't, it's not connected. So what do you see? Shut down, deflection, blame, distance. Again, not acceptable, but it's explainable and it's extremely predictable. Especially if you just start watching for the patterns. This is where maturity comes in. You can understand someone without tolerating their behavior. This is why we want to take time to look at us and look at them from more of an observer standpoint without the emotion. So let me say this again. You can understand that person without tolerating their behavior. Compassion does not mean staying. Compassion does not mean fixing. You can't fix and you shouldn't try to fix them. Compassion means you see clearly, or I see you clearly, and I still choose myself. Compassion is, I now see it, you are challenged in your own inner world. It doesn't align with mine, but I have to choose mine first. Now, here's the truth about change. You do not change an avoider by explaining more, which is what we do, loving them harder, being more patient. Gosh, how often we did that. Excusing their stuff. That doesn't work. The only thing that creates change is standards, your standards, clear standards, consistent standards, non-negotiable standards, not to control them. Standards are never about controlling them. When I say standards, most people say boundaries. I like standards because that's your minimum of what you'll accept at all. Standards are not to control them. It's not to teach them. Standards are who you are. And here's the reality. If those standards are not upheld, then that person's not going to change anyway. Those standards are going to define you, and that person is going to say whether they want to stay or not, however they do it. When I finally held a standard with my ex after 2 years, one standard, and the whole relationship collapsed because she could put standards on me, boundaries on me. But the minute I put one on her, she just couldn't handle it. The whole thing collapsed. If those standards are not upheld, they don't have to change. And neither do you, right? Because there are no standards. Go back to the beginning, that moment where your gut said something's off. This is in the relationship. You started to see the red flags. Something was starting to sit with you going, I don't know about this. That was your signal. And what did you do? You explained it away. You gave it time. You tried to understand it. You adjusted yourself for her instead of honoring yourself. And that's where you lost alignment, my friend. So here's the question I want you to sit with. If their behavior was unacceptable, then you're pointing all your fingers at it now. Why are you not pointing your finger at yourself and saying, why didn't I walk away when I saw it early on in the relationship? Don't answer that quickly. You need to sit with it because that answer is the key to breaking this pattern of finding bad people that you're going to continue to find so long as you keep your finger pointed outward at them. The avoider is not the villain. They are who they are. The real question is, who were you in that relationship? Because until you answer that question, you're going to meet that avoider again with a different face. Same dynamic, and this time, I want you to be the one who sees it early, and you choose differently. When I got out of a relationship with my last one, I decided I was going to go on to dating sites with the sole reason to say no. Get that practice. So I was intentionally, literally, intentionally writing my profiles to attract different types of characteristics. So I could talk to them a little bit, start to see the red flags and say no very, very quickly. My friend, that is a really good practice to get into. I really want to wrap this up. And I know some people may not like this when I'm sitting there saying, your avoidant is not the villain. They're not a villain. They're not a bad person. Narcissists are. But avoidants just don't know how to handle the inside. Narcissists will or intentionally try to hurt you. Avoidants, they want love. Right? But it's not your job to try to get them to love you like so many men do. And you just ruin your own sense of masculinity and self-respect. You're a leader, God damn it. Start leading your life by setting your standards. Get your focus off of them. Be more objective at their behaviors and look at yourself and say, I'm not going to do it like this anymore. I'm not going to tolerate this shit anymore. But under standards, you have to get past the anger so you can just, this can be a part of you. So when you see it, you can call it out very calmly and say, babe, I don't like what's going on here. We need to sit down and talk about it. And this is what I feel you're doing. And if she responds, which if she has an avoidant personality, then she's not going to look at herself. She's not going to make the changes. And that's your sign, and that's your cue to leave and move on. I'm Garrett. I hope you got something out of this. I'd love to see your comments on this. And if you're getting something out of this video, subscribe. If you think somebody else can benefit from this video, to start to get out of the finger pointing mode and start getting into the analyzing mode, then pass the video on to them. We'll talk to you later.